Hello, everyone. We're going to look at doing variations on a prototype of a box. Now, when designers design, they tend to use a certain kind of creativity called productive creativity. And productive creativity is just one type of several, and it's very adaptive. And what that means is you take something and you do something to it, and then you do something else to it, and then you do something else to it. And pretty soon, the more things you start doing with it, you start getting some other possibilities to create something new. So in this case, I might start looking at the way that this box folds. And I'm aware that when people are doing production design, or product design, they're going to be figuring out ways to protect the contents. So whether or not it protects a phone, and in this case, I have a phone inside, it's very sleek, it's black, very Euro designed. When I open it up, there's really no need for all of this extra space, but it has a little bit of a ta-da feature in it, and it's carefully detailed here with seams and hinges. So you get this idea of something that's well made, a well made, sleek electronic. So one of the first things to do in the design process is to saturate. And I'd like for you to start looking at boxes. And whereas you might have thought of the box as kind of a cube before, you'll start really noticing that depending on the demands of the product or what the designer has at their disposal, they're going to be folding up in really different ways. So in this case, I might look at different flaps. I might think, well, it doesn't have to be this size. Maybe instead of a four-fold, I could get a six-fold. What would happen if these had pop-ups on them? And so the more you look at different things, the more possibilities you get. For example, on this box, when I fold it wrong, I see I get wings. Now I could attach things to these wings, make them taller, maybe attach a ribbon to tie around the box. I see that there's some glue joints here. Maybe I could glue something here. So even though I've technically folded this wrong, by playing around with it, I can see possibilities and adaptations. If I'm an interior designer, I don't redesign a wall or redesign a floor. What I do is I will take something that's already produced, drywall, plywood, electrical, plumbing, and I will find creative and inventive, adaptive ways to do productive creativity. So, for instance, this is a box that contain rolls. It's a company that you can send soup to a sick friend. And when you put this all together correctly, let me get this going. The rolls have to be, here we go. The rolls have to be not squished, right? And they have to, be fresh. Sorry, it's a rather difficult fold to do. So when I come in here with these reinforced walls, it's a pretty complex box, isn't it? Okay, what happens here is it folds together very nicely. It has the same presentation, ta-da, that other box had, but they not only put something on this to affect how you see it. Grandma never did anything with these rolls, but they also make you think of, oh, it's very comforting. It's very natural. They have, pithy sayings about the company. You might want to keep the box because you like the saying. When you open it up, it seems almost gift wrapped. And then because the company wants to be seen as a green, responsible company, you can turn it inside out and make a gift wrap box. So once I refold this backwards, huh, once I refold this backwards, I would be able to come up with a box that I could then pass on to somebody. Now, if I'm doing this as a gift wrap box, what's great is when they open it, the advertising sticks around. So you see it longer. So for instance, I got a box of chocolates as a gift. And when I opened it, the chocolates were encased in a pretty unique box. So this gives me the idea that there's something unique and different about these chocolates. So I'm going to fold this in. I'm going to fold this in. This is the bottom, the base. And then they have a top here that again is a pretty complex fold. So as I fold this in and this down and this down and this in, and you notice I have folds that are going up and down. We'll get into that in just a second. Sorry, I got off camera. I intend to stay on camera, but my workspace is a little limited. So now I have a top. I've got the box. I put the two things together. It highlights with this die cut cutout these candies that maybe drugstore quality candies. I don't know, but they sure look nice in the box. And then as I open the box, it opens up so you got a serving tray. So some of the things you might want to look at here might be things like origami. Origami boxes, exploding boxes, pop-up boxes all have some possibilities. You'll notice in this case that I have some what's called mountain folds, and you created mountain folds when you did your cube. That is, when you look at this right here, it might look like a mountain. It goes this way. This is a mountain, but this is a valley fold. And I talked to you about using a ruler and scoring the surface so that you would get a clean fold here, because the surface tension will crack the paper unless you just gently score it. So if I had to score it on this side to get a mountain fold, I would come on here and each time it went up, lightly score it, and then I'd have to flip it over for the valley fold, which would then be cut on this side to release the tension. And so when you see something like this, you're cutting this side, then the back, this side, then the back, this side, then the back. This paper is a little softer than the poster board. So another thing you can do is, instead of using the sharp side of your knife, use the other side of your knife. It's not going to cut the paper as much. So if you find that you're cutting the paper, use a ruler here, use a ruler here, and then pull this towards you, not using the sharp end. You can also use a butter knife or a credit card. The credit card will compress the paper enough so that you get a good fold. This, I noticed that it looks like I have two pieces of paper. If I cut out this piece of paper, set it aside, I want to glue this on top of it. Get yourself some white glue and just a squeegee card, piece of cardboard, and I'm going to pick up my glue with this. I'm going to start in the center and work out on a scratched piece of paper. And the reason I start in the center and work out is because I don't want to get a lot of glue on these edges to get this side dirty. And if you spread it from the center out, you're going to find that you get a much cleaner, smoother movement there. Now, once this has glue on it, I'm going to want to put a piece of paper on top of it to, coat it like this. And what you want to do in that case is, when you take your piece of paper, if this was cut like the silver, you want to hold it in a kind of drape and put it here in the center. And when you start putting it on, go from the center out on pressing it. So always work from the center out. If you get air bubbles, you can't get rid of them if you start from one side and go this way, because they'll get trapped. So if you work from the center out in all directions, it allows the air to flow out. You would then, once you had the solid piece of paper, do your mountain and valley cuts. When I was playing around with the mountain and valley cuts, I had this box and I simply, drew some lines, and then I cut these openings here. Now, all I did was I cut here and here, here, and here. So the fold of the corner, like this, when I go like this, you can see I can pop out these windows. And this has a kind of cool sculptural effect on my prototype. It kind of looks like a spine to me. But also, I was talking about, you design a package or design a box for the function that is going to have, right? So this creates little vents. So if I had electronics that heated up, I could create vents. If I put lights in here that might heat up, these could not only be vents, but really cool ways for the light to come out. A tea light in here, any kind of light, would need to vent out and escape, let the heat escape. And so as I was playing around with that, first I made a simple prototype. And all this was like, what happens? I'm not even being very design-like on this. Like, fold a piece of paper, make a couple cuts, do this, see that I have some problems with, where I crease it, do that. And I think, oh, well, that has some possibilities. Well, that was one cut. And so what I did here was I took a piece of paper and I made one cut here, one cut here. These are my fold lines. So when I open this up, if this is the corner of the box, then this part could go in and this part could go in. This part goes out. Let me fold it to get the structure going. And you see here, you got a pretty cool sculptural device. If this was the corner of a box, this is the corner of a box, it would look like there was a box inside of a box. And you could do this so you had box inside a box inside a box. These lines don't have to be straight. You could experiment with other shapes and forms. And this would be something that if you Googled pop-up paper cutting, you could get something like this and transform a box into a cool sculptural object, lantern, something vintage. I also thought, well, why don't I take it to the next level? What happens if I keep making more and more cuts? And I found out that the more cuts I made, 1, 2, 3, 3 cuts instead of 2, started giving me some pretty cool possibilities. As I look at this one, it has 2 colors on it. I wonder what would happen if I made this little box one color, this little box another color, and this another color. It might get really 3D on the effect that I have on it. So what I want you to do is collect a bunch of different boxes. Design class should make you curious about the world and get curious about how something so simple can get so complex. In your sketchbook, you would sketch out some of these ideas, maybe find a template that you would want to use, and then start doing productive creativity, where you take something and you adapt it. So you do something to it, you do something to it, you keep doing things to it till you have something entirely new. Let's see what you do.